Welcome to Astrobites, a podcast featuring tales of planetary alchemy to help you journey consciously and in tune with the universal space that surrounds you. I'm Silvia, your host. I follow the moon, and every 2 weeks I'll bring you something to munch on about the energies at play and how to best navigate them. Welcome everyone to this new episode of Astrobites featuring the Leo full moon in Aquarius. It's happening August the 22nd at 5:01 a.m. Pacific time and 8:01 a.m. Eastern time. At 29 degrees of the Leo Aquarius axis. This is a transitional degree in the zodiac, degree 29, and conveys endings, transitions, endings, finalizing, making this the second also full moon of the Leo month. So this is certainly a very unique and powerful month where we are upgrading our calibration to heart, impersonal and social awareness with justice and freedom. I'm a little bit under the weather today. I had my single one vaccination yesterday and I feel a little droopy, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to be with you all and share. So we are embodying a new identity right now, elevating our frequency of love, personally, collectively, finding ways to follow the exciting current of co-creating together. Full moons bring awareness and revelations and clarifications and full-on clarity over issues of importance in our life. So this particular one has a lot to do with how we use our willpower and how we center ourselves within and without, with others and with the world at large, sharing ourselves creatively and most specifically or especially around our personal role and the part we are willing to play in social awareness, taking the consequences of the impact of our actions. This axis of Leo Aquarius is an axis that speaks about the individual and the group. The individual, the self-centeredness of being oneself, and the capacity, our capacity to incorporate, to include others' point of view, and to join groups, circles, tribes, teams where our voice is important as anybody else's. So for better or worse, this is a challenging time too. It's full of possibilities for growth. It is often said that things might get worse in order to get better. I imagine it has to do with the amplification of certain consequences that will be followed or that are followed by the respective repairs and healings. In shadowy ways, Leo's self-centered and dominating qualities can steer tensions with groups and networks and teams and friends, and we shall notice community voices uniting to be heard in their right for equality, for truth, for social justice, somewhat calibrating these operating systems that are happening right now are so fundamental in new forms of governance, so needed, so transitional right now. The planet Jupiter is retrograde and is very prominent during this full moon, somewhat uncovering unethical, amoral, and conflicting plans, legal complots, or manipulations of power. The truth of anything, the mistrust of unfulfilled promises or plans that take somewhat an unexpected turn. We just had recently Uranus turning retrograde as well. And so it is a combo that speaks about a shift that is happening in our positions around truth telling and following through with our promises and so on. So it will be fundamental to review our perspectives or the perspectives which took a different turn and review them in equally ways with others. So there's a time also right now that we're going to see people congregating to rebel, to revolt, to question true leadership. And it can be a socially critical time where we might find ourselves pondering about matters of the heart versus the more robotic, automatic, and emotionally removed behavior that Aquarius can be allowing for in the shadowy aspect of the sign. It could be very cold, very distant. It could be connecting and disconnecting, being overly spread thin, disassociated, and so on. So Uranus continues in this dynamic relation with Saturn and well into next year. And this is what we are all experiencing right now, that sense of wanting to move forward, wanting to break free, break through, and Saturn holding back in more conservative ways, pointing at we need to establish rules that work for all, or what about the establishment and taxes, and how to feed the governance or the status quo, the ways that it has been all these years. Yeah, so there is that preservation of the structures that are not easily giving in to this evolutionary movement represented by Uranus. So the shattering of these old systems and structures by new innovating values and forms are what we're going to be seeing through the fall of this year and next. This dance will ultimately come to a truce where new rules, regulations, agreements will gradually and timely adjust to the pressing calling of the future. And at the end, new forms will be gradually integrated, implemented, and with regulations for the collective. There is a reluctancy versus a collective pressure to access new systems that will revolutionize different areas, from food processing to economics, human values, even inventions, education, businesses, with new technological platforms and innovative ones that will result of all this awakening of the new progressive movement. So nature also will have a voice in this unexpected as well. So we are being shaken up by all sorts of natural disasters and circumstances that are also man's created, and the gradual heating up of the planet that is also stirring up new and unexpected natural events. We're going to see a lot of that. So there are a bunch of retrogrades right now going on. And for those who do not understand what this means, it is like after having moved forward with certain impulse and determination and perhaps vision or drive, we are now having to turn back somehow to retrace the steps we took earlier on and either rethink them or revise or reconnect or remembering them, reconsider certain things, reenact them just to watch our steps and did we meant correctly or not. And at the end is repair and finalize, reshape, re-examine to make sure that once we move forward again, which I think we're going to start to do that somewhere in October, around middle of October, second week into third week of October, a lot of these planets are going direct. It will be in full capacity with clarity of intention, integrity, and higher vision, and trust and openness. So planet Mars is also conjunct planet Mercury in the earthy, picky, detailed, calibrated, and also sacred constellation of Virgo. And sacred because there's an element of Virgo which is so speechless in some ways. Just because it's opposing to Pisces, there is that kind of an earthy recognition of the spiritual vibe and the spiritual frequency within our bodies. Yeah, and when I say bodies, I'm saying our physical body, our emotional body with emotions, our mental body with thoughts and conclusions and narratives. And Virgo is a constellation that calls for purity, for alignment to that purity. And so in this calling, there is a urge for order in all levels of well-being, with precision, maybe cleansing, and cleansing the body, eating well, reviewing our feeding habits, yeah, and making sustainable choices based on deep discernment or good discernment, attention to detail, to careful examination of all these elements at play for maximum efficiency, so that we be successful in what we want to or what we are deciding or defining. And whether it's taking care of our bodies and choose to be well, or finances, or administration, that Mars conjunct Mercury in Virgo is very suitable for these kinds of activities. So these two, Mars and Mercury, will take turns in opposing the planet Neptune in the constellation of Pisces. One aspect of Neptune, of course, is spiritual and healing. And another aspect of nature, more in the shadowy part, is the illusionist. Yeah. So many lies and complots can be exposed at this time and brought to the open for accurate analysis and determination and clarity. Where are the responsibles? Who is the responsible person for whatever subject? So this could be a little chaotic time. These two will take turns, of course, but at the same time, it's also a time to dispel these illusions, to perhaps recognize our longings, but to be really grounded and say, okay, what are the facts here? I see my illusions, I see what I would like, but what are the facts? What's really going on moment to moment? So make sure you use your discernment and inquiry to dispel these tentacles of the Medusa, and to not fall under fleeting reflections that can vanish in the smoke. So be aware of people who present themselves as something they are not. On another note, this could be a time for cleansing and healing, turning to the natural order. Herbs, clean diet, I already mentioned that, to strengthen our immune system. Certainly important. Venus is moving through the constellation of Libra, and at some point will square Pluto in about a week or so. And Venus is strong in Libra, and so relationships, clarity, observing again, and whether something has potential for long term. Here is Pluto in Capricorn. Is there any sense of commitment in both parties? Are we in line with the vision that we have with one another? So this is going to put to the test. It could be a little tense moment in relationships, in love, in finances as well. That's what Venus also rules, finances. But on the other end, a time to come to the middle, to say, okay, what is the compromise here? And this could bring a lot of transformation and renewal in all relationships. The next waning moon will happen in the constellation of Gemini, and the sun will be already in Virgo, and can bring many questions, perhaps not many answers. We are somehow paying attention to the input or the impressions that our body are shouting to us or informing us, yeah? And perhaps this could be part of that moment of, yes, there are a lot of questions, but how can I pay attention to how I feel in all respects? So we're going to be tested in how we can sharpen our personal intercom, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, so that we can integrate our system. And this is it could be very transforming, very shamanic, very profound. We might need, Virgo has a lot to do with the cocoon. So it's coming inward to find a different center, which is not the Leo center, where I want to be seen, I want to be recognized, I want to shine. No, this is a different center. This is a moving center. It's a center that also brings humility and a strong inner contemplation. Think about the little worm coming into the cocoon, about to turn into butterfly, but not quite there yet. So many steps into that process of becoming. Yeah. So in some ways, this transit of the sun over the constellation of Virgo will teach us to bring home, to come home within, so that we can find a new line of centeredness that is in reverence to the whole, that is here to serve and to serve well, and so on. So we're going to be learning to coordinate and gather information with facts, practical sustainability, and in alignment to wholeness. That's very much the Virgo transit. So the next bite will be the new moon in Virgo. Love and blessings in all ways. See you next bite.